Let's say you've got a 12-month tenancy agreement, but after just 3 months, your tenant calls you and says, my circumstances have completely changed, I've got to leave town, I can no longer live in your property. As the landlord, what do? You probably want to help them, but you probably also don't want to just rip up the contract and be left without income and an empty property. As ever, the first thing to do is of course to consult the tenancy agreement, as it's likely that there may be a clause that explains exactly what both parties do. It's most common that that clause will say that the tenant can be released early as long as another tenant is found to replace them at the property. They'd be released from the tenancy at the point that the new tenancy begins, ensuring that there's no void period or loss of income for the landlord. Since the Tenant Fees Act came in 2019, it's also clearly acceptable for the landlord to propose that the tenant covers any reasonable costs incurred in reletting the property early. Now, what could those reasonable costs be? The cost of marketing and finding a new tenant through a lettings agency, the cost of drawing up the new tenancy agreement, and the cost for a new inventory. All of these costs would not have been incurred if the original tenancy had been seen through to its natural end. But in reletting the property early, you are permitted through the Tenant Fees Act to reclaim those costs as a deposit deduction from your tenant. So, if your tenant wishes to vacate early, consult the tenancy agreement, propose that the property be remarketed, and release them once you've found an acceptable new tenant to replace them.